The Magnolia City Courthouse, a relic of a bygone era, stood as a monument to both justice and its potential perversion. The air within its walls, thick with the summer humidity of Oak Haven, Georgia, pressed down on everyone, a tangible weight mirroring the tension of the ongoing trial. Detectives Marcus Holt and Officer Brenda Vargas, their uniforms slightly rumpled, and their eyes glinting with a shared, almost predatory satisfaction, exchanged knowing glances. They'd just finished their testimonies, a meticulously crafted tapestry of lies designed to ensnare Anya Vance. Anya Vance, a visiting lecturer on community empowerment, had become an unexpected target. Her presence in Oak Haven, a town where the old ways died hard and the powerful held sway, had been a disruption. She'd arrived with a quiet intensity, asking pointed questions, observing the subtle undercurrents of corruption that ran beneath the town's placid surface. Holt and Vargas, accustomed to operating with impunity, saw her as a threat, a loose thread that needed to be snipped. The fabricated evidence, a small packet of a controlled substance, planted during a supposed routine search at a community event, was their solution. But today everything was about to change. A quiet courtroom, a smug pair of officers, and a woman about to reveal a secret that will shatter their world. What happens when corrupt cops celebrate their victory in court, only to have it ripped away by a woman revealing her true identity, the FBI supervisor? Stay with us as we uncover a story of justice, corruption, and the fight for what's right, a battle fought not with fists, but with truth and unwavering determination. Before we continue, make sure to subscribe to Dark Side of Luna, where untold stories come to light, stories that often lurk in the shadows, waiting to be illuminated. And let me know in the comments below. Have you ever witnessed or experienced corruption or abuse of power? How was it handled? What were the lasting effects? Anya, however, sat with an unnerving calm, her dark eyes, usually filled with warmth and intelligence, now icy and focused. She watched the proceedings, her posture ramrod straight, her hands clasped tightly in her lap, knuckles white. She'd spent weeks in Oak Haven, not just lecturing, but observing, listening, gathering her own evidence. She knew the unspoken deals, the backroom handshakes, the way Holt and Vargas operated with a casual disregard for the law. Her public defender, Ms. Lewis, a woman worn down by years of battling against the system's inherent biases, leaned over, her voice a low, urgent whisper. "Ms. Vance, I'm telling you, you need to consider the plea. It's your only chance. These officers, they have the judge in their pocket. This town, it's not like the city. They make their own rules. They own this place." Anya shook her head, her voice firm, unwavering. "No, Ms. Lewis, I will not plead guilty to a crime I did not commit. I will not be a victim of their lies. I will expose them." The courtroom, a microcosm of Oak Haven itself, buzzed with a cynical energy. It was a place where the powerful held sway, where justice was often a commodity, bought and sold, where the whispers of corruption were as common as the courthouse pigeons. Holt and Vargas, their confidence bordering on arrogance, exchanged smug smiles. They'd seen this play out countless times. They knew the script, the unspoken rules, the way things worked in Oak Haven. "The prosecution rests, Your Honor," Holt declared, his voice dripping with a false sense of righteousness, a practiced performance for the gallery. He glanced at Anya, a smirk playing on his lips, a cruel, dismissive gesture. Another open and shut case. A waste of the court's time, really. Ms. Lewis, her shoulders slumped in defeat, her voice barely a whisper, rose to address the judge. "Your Honor, the defense has no witnesses. We request a brief recess to discuss the plea agreement further with my client, Judge Thompson, a man whose impartiality was questionable at best." His eyes darting between the officers and Anya, dismissed her request with a wave of his hand, a gesture of impatience. "Denied. This trial has dragged on long enough. Ms. Vance, do you have anything to say before I pass sentence? Any last words?" Anya stood, her posture unwavering, her gaze sweeping across the courtroom, settling on Holt and Vargas, her eyes burning with righteous anger. "Yes, Your Honor, I do." A hush fell over the room, the air thick with anticipation, the silence a palpable thing. "I'd like to present some evidence of my own, evidence they seem to have overlooked." A ripple of confusion spread through the gallery. What could she possibly have? What could she possibly do to combat the testimony of two police officers, the word of the law, the supposed guardians of justice? Anya reached into her briefcase, a worn leather case that held more than just legal documents, and pulled out a small, silver badge, an emblem that shimmered under the courtroom lights, a symbol of federal authority. "This, Your Honor, is my federal identification. I am Anya Vance, Supervisory Special Agent, Federal Bureau of Investigation, Internal Corruption Task Force." The courtroom erupted. Gasps, murmurs, and shocked exclamations filled the room as the reality of Anya's revelation sank in. Holt and Vargas's faces drained of color, their smugness replaced by a chilling fear, a dawning realization of the trap they had walked into. Judge Thompson, his face flushed a deep crimson, stammered, "Supervisory Agent Vance, what is the meaning of this? This is unprecedented." "The meaning, Your Honor," Anya's voice rang out clear and firm, cutting through the chaos, silencing the whispers, "is that Detectives Holt and Officer Vargas have fabricated evidence, abused their power, and attempted to frame an innocent citizen. They have corrupted the very system they swore to uphold, and they have done so for far too long, preying on the weak, exploiting their power for their own gain." At Anya's signal, a team of federal agents, who had been discreetly positioned throughout the gallery, their presence commanding and undeniable, their faces grim, moved forward. They surrounded Holt and Vargas, their handcuffs clicking into place, a metallic echo of justice. "This is an outrage," Holt shouted, his voice cracking with fear, his bravado crumbling. "You can't do this. We're local police. We have rights." "On the contrary, Detective," Anya said, her voice calm but unwavering, her gaze unwavering, "I can and I will. This courtroom, this town, will serve as a stark reminder that no one, not even those who wear a badge, is above the law. This ends now. Your reign of terror ends now." The courtroom descended into chaos as the corrupt officers were led away, their cries of protest echoing through the halls, a desperate symphony of denial. Anya addressed the stunned gallery, her voice filled with conviction, her words ringing with the weight of truth. "The system is broken, but it is not beyond repair. We must challenge injustice, demand accountability, and ensure that justice is served for all. We must never allow those who abuse their power to go unchecked, to silence the voices of the vulnerable." The following days brought a whirlwind of change to Oakhaven. The federal investigation, led by Anya and her team, peeled back the layers of corruption that had festered for years. Financial records were seized, witnesses were questioned, and the town's influential figures were brought under scrutiny. Judge Thompson, his reputation shattered, was forced to resign, his involvement in the corrupt network laid bare. The townspeople, once resigned to the status quo, found their voices. They organized protests demanding accountability and transparency. The local media, emboldened by the federal investigation, began to report on the corruption, their stories shining a light on the dark corners of Oakhaven. Anya, despite the pressure and the threats, remained steadfast. She worked tirelessly, ensuring that every corrupt official was brought to justice. She became a symbol of hope, a reminder that even in the face of overwhelming odds, justice could prevail. The trial of Holt and Vargas, now stripped of their badges and their illusion of power, became a spectacle. The courtroom, once a place of fear and intimidation, became a stage for accountability. The evidence, meticulously gathered by the federal agents, painted a damning picture of their corrupt activities. The verdict, when it came, was swift and decisive. Holt and Vargas were found guilty on all counts, their sentences a testament to the severity of their crimes. The courtroom erupted in applause, a collective sigh of relief from a town that had finally broken free from the shackles of corruption. Anya Vance, the woman who had dared to challenge the status quo, left Oakhaven a changed town. Her legacy lived on, a reminder that even the most deeply entrenched corruption could be uprooted, that even the smallest voice could spark a revolution. But the story didn't end with the gavel's fall. The reverberations of Anya's actions reached far beyond the town limits, igniting a wildfire of change that swept across the state and even the nation. The federal investigation, initially focused solely on Oakhaven, revealed a network of corruption that extended into state and even federal agencies. The carefully constructed facade of legitimacy began to crumble, exposing the rot that had festered for years. The media, now emboldened by the sheer magnitude of the revelations, ran relentless stories, their headlines screaming of betrayal and systemic failure. Public outrage swelled, demanding accountability from the highest levels of government. Politicians, once thought untouchable, found themselves under intense scrutiny, their careers hanging in the balance. The Justice Department, under immense pressure, launched a nationwide initiative to root out corruption, establishing task forces modeled after Anya's own. In Oakhaven, the transformation was profound. The townspeople, no longer resigned to their fate, seized the opportunity to rebuild their community. They formed citizen oversight committees, demanding transparency from their local government. They revitalized their main street, supporting small businesses and fostering a sense of community. The courthouse, once a symbol of oppression, became a beacon of hope, a place where justice was finally served. But the fight wasn't without its dangers. Anya, despite her departure, remained a target. Threats against her life became more frequent, whispered warnings that the old guard wouldn't relinquish their power without a fight. One night, a fire erupted at the community center, a building Anya had helped to establish. It was a clear message, a chilling reminder that the forces of corruption were still lurking in the shadows. Anya, however, refused to be intimidated. She returned to Oakhaven, not as a lecturer, but as a force of nature. She worked with the remaining federal agents, the reformed local police, and the empowered townspeople, forming an unyielding alliance. Together, they tracked the remaining corrupt officials, exposing their hidden assets and their illicit dealings. The final confrontation took place at the abandoned Magnolia Mill, a symbol of Oakhaven's decline and a known meeting place for the corrupt cabal. The air crackled with tension as Anya and her team confronted the last vestiges of the old order. A tense standoff ensued, a battle between those who sought to uphold justice and those who clung to their power. Gunfire erupted, echoing through the empty mill, a chaotic symphony of desperation and defiance. In the end, justice prevailed. The remaining corrupt officials were apprehended, their network dismantled, their reign of terror finally brought to an end. Anya, standing amidst the ruins of the mill, looked out at the sunrise, a new dawn for Oakhaven and for the nation. Her work was far from over, but she knew that the seeds of change had been planted, and that the fight for justice would continue, fueled by the courage of ordinary people who dared to stand up and say, "Enough." The legend of the FBI supervisor who brought down a corrupt town became a rallying cry, a testament to the power of truth and the unwavering pursuit of justice, a story that would be told for generations to come.